What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at Clerks 3, written and directed by Kevin Smith. This is the third and final installment into the Clerks franchise, and the overall ninth installment into Kevin Smith's Askewniverse. The overall plot line of Clerks 3 is as follows. Dante and Randall, 15 years after the events of Clerks 2, are now co-owners of the Quick Stop. One day, Randall suffers a near-fatal heart attack, and he gets the idea to want to make a movie about the lives of himself and Randall and their times at the Quick Stop. So yeah, that is the overall plot line of this movie. Let's talk about it. Make this review as short and sweet as possible. Overall, I really liked Clerks 3. I thought this was a fitting and satisfying closing chapter in the book that is Randall and Dante. This movie is both really funny, but it also has a lot of emotional impact, and it's also very bittersweet. Like, Clerks 3 packs a lot of emotional punch for me. As somebody who is a fan of Kevin Smith movies, as somebody who is a fan of the Askewniverse, and as somebody who really liked the first two Clerks movies, with the second one being my favorite one, I think Clerks 3 is going to be tied neck and neck with Clerks 2 as to which one is my actual favorite. Now, Clerks 3 it shows the older versions of Randall and Dante. They're still in the same station of life, but they're not young anymore. Now they're going through adult problems. You know, Randall suffers a heart attack, and because of a near-death experience, he wants to make a movie about the lives of himself and Dante. And the whole movie is pretty much Randall and Dante pretty much trying to make a movie about their lives at the Quick Stop. And and to me, this plays as what Kevin Smith is going through right now. You know, Kevin Smith in his later life, he's pretty much going back to the beginning of his career, and pretty much, I wouldn't say redoing the same movies, but he's going back to those early movies like Clerks and like Jay and Silent Bob, and pretty much telling the second half, if you will, of their stories. And Clerks 3, to me, that's what that is. Even though it's a concluding chapter to the Clerks movies, it is the second half of life. You could say it's the second half of life for Dante and Randall. You know, we saw them in their young 20s. We saw them in their 30s. Now we're seeing them in their late 40s, going into their 50s. You know, they got health problems. You know, Dante is an emotional wreck, and he's struggling through life because, you know, Becky is no longer alive, and their unborn daughter is no longer alive. They were unfortunately killed by a drunk driver. This movie has Dante going through a lot of those emotional pitfalls. You know, having these, you know, I wouldn't say hallucinations, but in his darkest moments, having these, you know, visions with the spirit of Becky. Brian O'Halloran, by the way, in this movie, this has got to be Brian O'Halloran's best performance as Dante, or in any movie in general. Brian O'Halloran in this movie proves that this man can act, and he can act really well. There are several scenes in this movie where the man has to do drama, and he knocks it out of the park for me. You can feel the sadness radiating from this man's performance. Like it's almost as if Brian O'Halloran is going into a deep place and pulling out this dramatic performance. Like, there's this beautiful scene where he's at Becky's grave, and, you know, the conversation starts off lighthearted, then towards the end it gets dark with Dante with Dante pretty much saying that, you know, Becky was the greatest thing that ever happened to him, and before you know, he and her had a chance to fully get life going, it was taken away from him. And you can see the dread and the emotional despair in his performance, and it's fantastic. Then you have the scene where Dante and Randall, when they're in full blown movie making mode, they go to movies to shoot. They go to movies, and yeah, played for laughs. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of Dante's character arc, you know, movies is where he met Becky. Movies is where he and Becky had the beginnings of their relationship. You know, yeah, for us it was fun and games, but for Dante now, it's a place that he doesn't want to step foot in, because it's just going to keep reminding him of what he lost. And this is where Dante hits his emotional breaking point. And, you know, he gets himself completely hammered, and he gets completely shit-faced. And this is where he and Randall have the breakdown of all breakdowns, where Dante just goes flat out off on Randall, and they go off on each other. And this is where the comedy turns into something serious, because this is Randall and Dante. These two guys are like glue. You know, you can't have one without the other. They're the yin and yang. They're the Luke and Han of the Kevin Smith universe. You can't have a Kevin Smith universe without Dante and Randall. They're like the glue, the backbone. They hold this whole thing together. They're the foundation. But Dante, he's falling apart. And unfortunately, during the midst of a very heated argument, Dante suffers a heart attack. Unfortunately, this proves to be a very fatal heart attack, and he peacefully passes away with Randall at his side. And this scene is beautifully done, beautifully directed, beautifully written. Now, throughout the entire course of the movie, it's pretty much Randall and Dante making their movie with a lot of hilarious bits. You have the cameo dump scene where they're doing auditions where we get to see Ben Affleck, Danny Trejo, Fred Armisen, a couple of guys from Impractical Jokers. Freddie Prinze Jr. makes an appearance, so does Sarah Michelle Gellar. Ethan Sluppy, a former Kevin Smith alumni, makes an appearance. Like, the cameo dump scene's hilarious. Especially with Ben Affleck, because Ben Affleck not being in a Kevin Smith movie is sacrilege, which is why I'm so glad he's back doing Kevin Smith movies in these little cameo roles, because Ben Affleck always has the most memorable parts. He plays a guy, he plays a guy called Boston Joe, and he's funny. And you also have it's just so much fun. The cameo dump scene with the auditions are a lot of fun. I love it. It's a funny scene. And then you have the rest of the movie that proceeds of Randall trying to make his movie, recreating some iconic scenes from the first Clerk movies, bringing back some of the old cast members for that, which was great to see. Another thing that's great to see is Trevor Furman return as Elias, and he did not age well. He did not age well at all. But it's good to see Elias, as the Jesus freak. But when Randall has his heart attack, he renounces Jesus and becomes a Satanist. And throughout the entire movie, he's dressing like King Diamond and dressing like Darla Hannah from Blade Runner, just dressing like doing cosplay Satanist, or what he thinks is, or what he perceives as what a Satanist would look like, which is what Elias does, which is fun. But to this movie's credit, Elias himself has some really good scenes, and this harkens back to what I was going with Dante. So after Dante has his heart attack, Elias and Randall, they have a fight in the middle of the hospital where, Randall, he's playing off Dante's heart attack the same as his heart attack. Like, Dante's, he's going to be all right. Look at me. I survived a heart attack and I'm great. Dante's going to have the same way. And this is where Elias just goes off on Randall. And this is the first time we get to see Elias actually stand up for himself and actually stand up to Randall. Where he's like, you know what, Dante needs you more now than ever, and all you want to do is do your stupid movie while this man could possibly not be here the next day. And of course, this is, when you actually look at it, it's Randall pretty much trying to not accept the fact that, what Elias is saying is true, but he's being completely stubborn in doing so. And this is where Randall, he has his, he runs back to his house to finish the movie. And the movie he finishes pretty much has, Dante, and the entire time we're watching this movie, Randall is perceiving himself as the main character, when in actuality, it's Dante who is the main character. And when Randall completes this movie, and he shows it to Dante on his deathbed, it's pretty much just a beautiful homage of the first two Clerks movie. And Randall said it best, Dante's the hero of the story. He is the Luke Skywalker, in a way. And you get this really great scene with Dante, watching this thing in a movie theater with the ghost of Becky by his side. And you can see that Dante has finally found his peace. He's found his peace. He's with Becky. His best friend, Randall, who's somebody who Dante always believed, never fully appreciated him. Nah. Randall always appreciated Dante. And that, to me, what the ending means. The ending of Clerks 3 is Randall pretty much perceiving Dante as the hero of the story, as his personal hero. And with that, Dante dies peacefully in the hospital with Randall by his side, which is just a fitting end to Dante's character. And it actually harkens back to the original ending for Clerks, which was Dante was supposed to die at the end of the first Clerks movie. I like the fact that Kevin Smith didn't do that with the first Clerks movie, because we got a more satisfying conclusion to Dante's story arc. In this movie, it's much more, it's bittersweet, it's painful, if you're a fan of the Clerks movies, you're gonna feel the waterworks. because it's such a beautifully directed scenes and so beautifully acted. And a lot of that has to do with Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran being real life friends. So it's kind of like them harking into a place of, you know, maybe in real life I can lose this guy, I can lose this person who's been with me since the beginning. Very emotional, packs a lot of emotional punch, and I love it a lot. I really love the ending of this movie a lot. Very well done, very beautiful, very bittersweet, yet also in a way satisfying, because it concludes the Randall and Dante story, and you can't go wrong with that. Other little nuggets in this movie that I like, you know, Jay and Silent Bob are in this movie. They have a lot of good comedic, they have a lot of good comedic moments, pretty much joining the production of the movie, playing themselves as they were in the first movie, and also have nice little bits here and there. You know, we get a nice return from Millie, Jay's daughter, at the end of the movie at Dante's funeral, and also becoming an employee at the Quick Stop, checking for expired milk. That's a nice full circle thing. We also get the return of Emma from Clerks II, who Dante had to pretty much beg to get financing to make this movie. I'm not a really big fan of Emma making an appearance at the very end of the movie, where she goes to the Quick Stop to get her half of the movie long after Dante's dead. I would have done without that, but I do like the payoff of this whole subplot of Elias and Elias's friend pretty much starting this kite crypto thing, and they end up making $1 million, and Elias gives the money owed to Emma to get her away. But I do like the whole thing of Elias, you know, taking the spot of Dante, which is a nice little callback to Clerks II, because in Clerks II, you know, Randall told Elias, hey, one day Dante's not going to be here, you're going to be my new best friend. I like how Kevin Smith tied that up together, you know. So I mean, I don't want to see a Clerks 4, but, you know, if we're still going to get movies in the Askewniverse, you know, having Elias, you know, be Dante's new friend, like, it could work, you know, because Elias and Randall do have a lot of funny scenes, not only in this movie, but in Clerks 2 as well. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about Clerks 3. I loved the Clerks 3, despite, you know, maybe some little things here and there, like the inclusion of Emma at the very end, which I would have done without. That's me personally. I overall think Clerks 3 is really good. It tells a very emotional story. This has got to be, in terms of the grand scheme of things, this is a more mature and darker movie that Kevin Smith has made in the Askewniverse as a whole. It deals with a lot of themes. It deals with a lot of themes that are like mortality and death and things like that, and the grief that these characters go through. Like, you know, Dante has to go through the grief of losing Becky and Grace now Randall goes through grief of losing Dante. You know, his Luke Skywalker, his Han. You know, the Luke Skywalker to his Han Solo, basically. So like, Clerks 3 to me is like a full circle type of movie, and I thought Kevin Smith did it, and he did it very well. So with all that being said, I'm personally going to give Clerks 3, I'm going to give Clerks 3 a 9 out of 10. I love this movie. Despite a couple of things here and there, I think Clerks 3 is nearly perfection. That's just me personally. Ties up the story of Randall and Dante beautifully in a nice bittersweet send-off, but also with a hint of, but also some optimism also. So yeah, Clerks 3, 9 out of 10. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Like the video and subscribe. And I'll check you back next time for more.